It's YT Wake 'em Up. This video right here is about the 40-hour work week. Are you just accustomed to it? Is this just the norm? Something that you're used to? Or is it something that you enjoy? A lot of people don't enjoy their jobs. They don't enjoy having to give all of their time to their employer and not having any time to give to themselves or their families. Other people are just simply tired of working 40 hours and not being able to get ahead in life. If this is you, there are a lot of people that can relate, and we're going to hear them rant about it. With that being said, though, if you're brand new to this channel, I need you to smash the subscribe button so these type of videos can pop up in your subscription box. Also, this is the last thing. I need everybody to thumbs up this video so the algorithm can push it out. With that being said, let's get into it, y'all. Let's go.
So a lot of people didn't like that I said that 40-hour work weeks were a scam, or some people just didn't understand my thought process behind that, so allow me. So I first started to feel this way when I read a study about the fact that if we were to decrease 40-hour work weeks to 30-hour work weeks or even 25, our productivity doesn't even decrease. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, why does taking 10 or 15 hours not decrease productivity? It's literally 10, 15 missed hours of work. But that is because scientifically, humans are not made, unfortunately, to be working that much. Whether we want to say that that's normal or not, that is not normal for our bodies. So naturally, after working, I think after 6 hours, your body begins to decrease its natural productivity and decrease its focus.
I agree with that. I mean, I did notice that when I did have a job, when I was working. Now I work for myself. But when I was an employee, I did realize that after a certain amount of hours, could be 6, she said this is scientifically proven. So it was around like 5 to 6, maybe 7 hours, my productivity and focus would shift. Like I would not really be there at the job no more mentally. Like I'm just ready to go home. I'm kind of lagging in comparison to how efficiently I could work before. If you get what I'm saying. I'm not the only person. This is scientifically proven.
So taking away 10 or 15 hours doesn't actually affect that productivity. What affects the productivity is continuing to work for that long. Humans are not made to work 12-hour days. Humans are not made to work 8-hour days. And I'm fully aware that it used to be like 80-hour work weeks before the union switched it to 40. But another thing is even the 40-hour work weeks were implemented before today's technology, when it was expected also that the spouse was staying home to take care of the kids in the house. There are literally economists from decades ago who predicted that we would be working 15-hour work weeks by now with technology advancements. In my opinion, the reason why we are still being worked this hard when it's not necessary, and we're not gaining anything from it, is to make you guys too tired to complain and revolt. Who has time to form a union when you're working a 40-hour work week and then also doing a side hustle because that 40-hour work week isn't even making you enough money? Like, nobody has time to do that. If we didn't have 40-hour work weeks, there would be people who would have time to start their own businesses, and they would find easier methods of making money. And this would, unfortunately, take money away from these big corporate businesses. And they do not and will not ever allow that to happen, which is why we work 40-hour weeks.
That's something to think about right there. If people had more time, there would probably be less employees, and certain industries will become destabilized. And on top of that, she's right. This is a form of distraction. Jobs sometimes are a distraction. They distract you from your purpose. They distract you from gaining certain information simply because you don't have the time. On top of that, fun fact, this is just general and common knowledge. If you ask a lot of people either what they're going to do after retirement or what they would do if they didn't have to work, they don't really know what they would spend their life doing. A lot of people have lost themselves within the workforce.
Okay, so I have had the privilege of not having to work 40 hours a week for the past 5 years. So for the past 5 years, I've only worked maybe like between 20 to 35 hours a week. 35 being like the most and not very often. But this week and next week, I'm going to be working 40 hours a week. So I started on Monday, and I'm having 8-hour days. And let me tell you, on day 2, I came home and I cried, okay? I haven't worked this much in so long, and I don't think any human should be doing anything for 8 hours a day. No. Like, Okay, so I'm a nanny for reference, and so it's pretty great. We're in New York. I get to, take the kids out to the park. We're going to Central Park. We're eating. We're going to museums, so it's not like it's a hard job, you know what I mean? And the kids are like fairly easy. But it's really just doing one thing for 8 hours, and that 8 hours not being my thing, it being like an outside of me thing. And I need y'all to get mad, okay? I need y'all to get mad and start protesting and not going to work, and start protesting so we could have like 32-hour work weeks. Because my mental health, when I stopped working 40 hours a week, drastically changed. Drastically. Now, that is also because I was very fortunate to, not have to work 40 hours and still be able to afford the things I need. And so, there's that. But I need y'all to rage. I need y'all to get mad, okay? So that none of us have to ever work 40 hours a week. Okay, thank you.
Did you know certain politicians are trying to make it to where the work week will be 4 days now? Some people are even advocating for a 3-day work week. Now, with that being said, in this economy, the pay will have to be higher per hour, or people still won't be able to survive. We got to think about that. People can barely survive off working 40 plus hours. So by reducing hours, how will you be able to get ahead or sustain yourself or just survive? Because people are just surviving. How will you be able to survive? Unless you get paid a substantial amount per hour. Like, you know what I mean? Like if you get $50 an hour, $60 an hour, you see what I'm saying? So sometimes it could be a gift and a curse what you're asking for.
40 hours. How many of you heard in your head, 40 hours? I remember my first part-time job. Do you want my schedule, kid? You want my schedule?
Absolutely fucking not. Thank you very much. The fact that there's people out there normalizing that to work more than 40 hours per week is okay is mind-blowing. It's become such a norm that I'm seeing that there's people that don't even realize that it's one of the biggest scams of all time. The 40-hour work week come from the 1930s, from Mr. Henry Ford, the 1930s. Let me ask you this question. Are we still driving the same cars that we did in the 1930s? No. Why does a law that was invented in the 1930s even still relevant today? Everything has evolved. Why has the 40-hour work week not evolved? Why are people treating it as a flex to work more? If you step back and think about this for 1 second, isn't there more to life than work? Do you really think that your purpose, your soul's mission was to come here and work yourself to death? Like, come on. I really don't consider myself that much of a spiritual person, but I know for a fact that there is more to life than wake up, rush, work, rinse, repeat. Life is meant to be lived. And yes, I completely understand work is part of life. I do not dream of a utopia, whatever, where people are not working at all, but to flex to work more than 40 hours a week is just insane to me. It makes me sad. Like, something has to change.
Now, for all of the people that vouch for the 40-hour work week, let me introduce y'all to a new concept, right? This right here is one of my favorite books. The 4-hour work week. Not 40. Take that 0 off of there. The 4-hour work week by Timothy Ferriss. Escape 9 to 5, live anywhere, and join the new rich. This was the book that I read right before I traveled to the Philippines and Thailand and learned that I could live off of a lower income, and by my US dollar being stronger than their currency, I would get more value for my buck. Back then, it was like 4 times the value. There are a lot of people that are leaving this country to live and retire in Southeast Asia, Thailand, Philippines, Vietnam, some places in Africa. There are other countries, I'm not going to name them all, but they're traveling out there and building a lifestyle based on working less. It might not be 4 hours a week, but it could be. There are some people that work 4 hours a week, some people that work 2 to 4 hours per day, right? Something like dispatching. I mentioned this before. Freight dispatching, that takes no more than 4 hours per day. Day trading. Sometimes I get in a trade, make $1,000 in 15 minutes. Sometimes it might take 2 hours. Lately, I've been trading no more than an hour per day. So this is not a foreign concept. I just want to say that.
We need to have a conversation about how the 40-hour work week actually de-incentivizes being productive and efficient, but I don't think corporate America's ready for that. I've talked about it before, but my issues with the 40-hour work week go way beyond the fact that it's outdated. Yes, it was coined by Henry Ford, but the concept of the 8-hour workday was actually coined back in like 1817 by a Welsh labor rights activist named Robert Owen. That means 8-hour workdays are a 200-year-old concept. 200 years. But we still use them today as if they're the best model for every type of industry, every type of work across the board. That's not true. The problem with the 40-hour work week is that we apply a one-size-fits-all philosophy towards work and how it should be structured and the amount of hours that we should be doing and what the model should look like across the board. Yes, the 40-hour work week does work when you're working in a factory or works in fast food or works maybe in nursing, things where it is more important for the person to be there for a set number of hours than anything else. Because working in a restaurant, what's more important is that you are there to serve customers for a set number of hours than serving a set number of customers, if that makes sense. But the same doesn't apply for corporate America. Thanks to advances in technology, the amount of work that we can get done in the same amount of time or less has skyrocketed. In fact, there was one study that found that from 1979 to 2022, worker productivity increased by 64.7%. Meanwhile, the average pay has only grown by 14.8%. Our productivity has gone up a lot. We're getting a lot more done in the same amount of time, but our wages, not so much. Now, obviously, that presents a big problem, and a lot of us are seeing this. We've dealt with cost of living increases, and inflation, and things like that. But more importantly, the 40-hour work week actually punishes you for being productive. Think about it. Let's say I work in an office, and I have another coworker who does the exact same job as me, and we are both told that we have to do 10 things over the course of 40 hours for 1 week. It takes them 40 hours to do all 10 things. It takes me 30 hours. Let's assume that our experience, our pay, and our work quality is all the same. If I get all my work done in 30 hours, I'm essentially getting punished for being productive because I don't get to stop working. I don't get to go home. I have to do more work. And that's the big problem with the 40-hour work week. It is more about the time that your butt is in a seat than actually getting things done. And ultimately, that de-incentivizes you from being more productive, efficient, and effective in your work. And it kind of encourages you to do the opposite.
True. A lot of people do the bare minimum. I'm not getting paid for that, so they're not going to do extra. They're not going to go the extra mile. Just do what you're paid for, and I don't blame them. If you do more than the job entails, then you should be incentivized. You should get some extra money. You should get a portion of the profits or something. There should be like a profit split, something like that. Why could somebody do the bare minimum and make the same amount that I'm putting in as a hard worker doing more work than them? It's two different types of people. It's people that go all in, and there's other people that do just the bare minimum. They do what they paid for. The person that go all in should make more, or they should be able to work less because they're getting the task done quicker than the next person. Simple as that. Let's let her finish, though. I cut her off.
Because if I get paid the same as my coworker who's only doing 10 things for 40 hours when I'm over here doing 15 things in 40 hours, why would I keep doing that? I'm not getting a bonus. I'm not getting a raise. I'm not getting a promotion. Why wouldn't I just stay the same? Now, like I said, this doesn't apply to every job function, every industry across the board, because there shouldn't be a one-size-fits-all solution. But it is a conversation I think is worth having as we explore what the future of work should look like.
The 40-hour work week is outdated and unsustainable. Y'all gonna keep hearing this unsustainable word a lot on this channel.
So some of you watching this video are probably really, really tired. And there's a reason why so many of us are tired all the time, which is the 40-hour work week is really antiquated. It was designed a long time ago for one person to be at work and one person to be home. And the reason why so many of us are tired is that it's a full-time job to run a household on top of, for many, raising children and then having to have a full-time job. So this is your permission, as if you needed it. You do not, but this is your permission to take a break, to rest when you can, to try to relax whenever you can. You are not being dramatic, you're not being over the top, you're not asking for too much. You need rest. This is not a system that is designed to be sustainable for anybody. So this is your weekend reminder to rest.
And that's why the Most High intended for us to have a day of rest. Once again, I don't care what your beliefs are. I'm not a religious person, but through my bloodline, I am Hebrew. I'm going to just let y'all know that. And we celebrate the Shabbat. So Shabbat Shalom to anybody that's watching this on the day of rest. We all need a day of rest. The Creator knew that. So why is that hard to understand? Why is that hard to understand?
Here's why the 40-hour work week just doesn't work anymore. First off, if you didn't know, this concept actually comes from the 1930s, where the government thought that to fight massive unemployment, they would reduce company hours and companies would then have to employ more employees to fill their needs. And that would actually help. So they passed a bunch of law, which made the 40-hour work week the norm. And that's never changed. Back then, people were working 11 hours per day, 6 days per week, by the way. But there's more and more studies that are simply proving that the 40-hour work week is not adapted to our society anymore and is completely inefficient. For example, in Ireland, they conducted a large-scale trial between 2015 and 2019 to the 4-day work week. And what happened is that productivity actually increased. All employees reported less stress, a better work-life balance, and overall better well-being and happiness at work.
All right, so that answered my question. If they reduce your hours or days that you work down to 4 days, the 4-day work week, how will people be able to sustain themselves, and should the pay be higher? Yeah, productivity is increasing, so pay should be higher. And that way it evens out. It'll just even out.
Neuroscientists actually tells us that our brain has an attention span of approximately 40 minutes. And that our maximum ability to focus and actually be really productive is 4 to 5 hours per day. So if you feel like your brain is completely numb after 8 hours, that's completely normal. And that's because we're all being completely overworked. That means that we could literally do our whole work week within 20 to 24 hours if we took all of our attention span, directed it only to the work that we had to do, and focus solely on that. So can you imagine? The 20 to 25 hour work week is actually the most beneficial and productive for human race, but no one wants to listen. Let me know what you guys think.
Drop below in the comments this timestamp on this video and drop your opinion, what you think about that. What do you think about what she said? How do you feel about it? She wanted to know. I want to know. Let's see.
It was predicted by now that we'd have 10 to 15 hour work weeks, so what the hell happened? In the early 20th century, there were so many changes to labor laws and the hours worked decreased dramatically. So back then, it made sense that we would just continue to decrease our hours worked. But one thing about Americans is that we don't know how to stop working. Instead of saying, oh, this is great, we have so much free time, it was nicknamed the leisure scare. And where we see extra work as a status symbol, other countries see it as a sign that you actually don't have a lot of money and that's why you're working so much. When we look at countries within Europe, leisure is the status symbol, not work. Now, the only people that benefit from this are the companies that you are working extra time for. So the next time you go to call somebody lazy for only working 40 hours a week,
Victim. Corporate greed. That's the top comment, or the latest comment. Capitalism happened. Right. Greedy employers want to pay people less, make them do more work so they can make more profit. They don't want to give raises. And if they do give you a raise, it's not a lot. It's not enough. That in general should not be legal. There needs to be standards put on these corporations. But why would they do that? That's like shooting their own self in the head. But yo, you made it to the end of this video. I need you to drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about what was discussed throughout this video. How do you feel about the 40-hour work week? Do you think there needs to be changes? Or do you think there's nothing wrong with the 40-hour work week? You should work more. Is that how you feel? Or do you think there should be a 4-day work week? Do you think people should only be working 4 to 5 hours per day maximum? Let me know what you think in the comments. It's your boy YT. Wake 'em up. Appreciate you for tuning in. And I am out of here.